alone and I'm not lonely. I know that I'm not alone. But the fact is that we really are here. We need to find our tribe so that we can do what we need to do. If you resonate with what I'm saying, then you're going to take the time to be involved. You're going to take the time to be engaged. And, it's slow going because people are still, it's a slow shift of coming out. I mean, it's happening actually faster.
It's
Now
accelerating. I was just gonna say, yeah,
it is accelerating.
but the point is you're showing up, which I love. Like you're showing up with your superpower, right? You're showing up with all the strengths that you've gathered from these times when you were struggling, to reflect back to other people who might have taken that same journey that's been marginalized or felt left out of the conversation or didn't get a seat at the table, and didn't feel part of a community, that you're actually creating that and have been for quite a long time since you've come into this journey, because you're an organizer. You're organizing ideas, thoughts, opportunities, possibilities. I think the place that you organize from what I feel, is that you're coming from such a deep place of cosmic order, kind of like you're tapping into what you say frequency, right? And so you're really organizing beyond, like we're going to talk about the Black Bill of Rights in a second here and stuff, but beyond our inalienable rights, we do have like cosmic,
Sovereign.
yeah,
Yes.
sovereign rights, right? Heavenly
Yes.
rights, if you will.
Heaven,
Yes,
yes.
celestial rights,
The
exactly.
fact that we are actually in human form is our right. We have our right to exist in a way that we can have our needs met. I still feel as though the spirit of what's kind of there underneath the Christ consciousness, the gnosis, that is my legacy. And so that was how I had to kind of like, you know what, I'm not going to be afraid anymore to like have people to speak on these things when I'm in spaces that are activist
Yeah,
spaces,
yeah, yeah,
and really bringing it up into people's consciousness of being like, hey, listen, I understand that we're all angry, but we can't stay here.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Like we actually need strategy and we need care.
honoring everybody's rights, is
Mhm.
a really good hedge bet on our survival. Actually, even if you can't
Mhm.
get people to get
Yeah.
in, and a right is just a thing that can't be restrained or repealed by human laws, right? It's just like what is a right? It's like we have a right to breathe, we have a right to exist.
Exactly. Yeah.
Our founding fathers did a pretty good job at sort of trying to balance. They tried to balance the power. They were thinking ahead, right? They were like, how do we get out of this monarchy? And now we're going to separate the powers into three different things. And then, of course, we had like, the Constitution came out of that. And,
But they were still flawed, and that was the issue.
Mhm.
mhm.
Was because even though they had the goals, they were very lofty goals, but they were still flawed as men.
Yeah.
And so they, even though what they were able to achieve in that time when they were together, I do believe was divinely constructed in terms of, because that's a lot, to
At that
build
time,
build a country.
well, and that's a big community is what they were
And it's like,
thinking
yeah,
too.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
It's
you're
essentially
you're
what a
taking,
country is. It's a community,
yeah,
right?
it's a
Yeah.
community of different people, different thoughts, different ideologies,
Yeah.
being able to come and get all of these different people together to say, okay, we will agree
Yeah.
on these rights. I mean, that's
Right.
incredible, right?
And
But
truths that are self-evident. But what does
self-evident,
self-evident mean?
me
Yeah.
exactly, right? Because
Well,
the thing was, yeah, because
go ahead.
they never thought like, Black and Indigenous people were not supposed to ever be free.
Right.
This conversation was only supposed to be amongst, white men who owned land.
Right.
And so we
Yeah.
flipped the script. We flipped the script, but now we've spent 400 years playing catch up.
Yeah. Well, so something you said earlier, actually, just kind of in, I want to bring back a little bit where you said you had to step into your whole self, right? And you
Mhm.
had to become one Jasper instead of all these component parts and pieces. And kind of similarly, if you think about, what we're just talking about, right? Like these truths that are self-evident, but only from the perspective of wherever those people came from at that time. So their
Absolutely.
pieces were
Mhm.
limited. And now we're stepping into this space and some of this work that you're doing in particular, right? I said this to Sky before, yesterday or something like that, Sky, where really maybe forging our path to equality together, like true equality, right, is what's going to help lead us into oneness. And so with you and what you're doing with the Black Bill of Rights and bringing these pieces back together to create more equality, to create more oneness, like I really feel like it's just one step towards that ultimate goal of reunification and becoming one people.
So when I first started working on the Black Bill of Rights, one of the other things that kind of like really grabbed a hold of me was when there was a man in our community, Stephon Clark, you know, may he rise in power and rest in peace, but he was killed by SAC PD. You know, he lived 15 minutes away from me. He was killed in his grandmother's backyard. He put up his phone, they thought it was a gun, and they shot him way too many times. And my partner and I were brought into the conversation of Black community leaders to essentially find out what we could do different, you know, because we knew that we were just like, okay, look, the bad reality of all this is that the cops are not going to stop killing Black people. It's an inconvenient truth that, you know, if it behooves us to stay present in that space and in awareness so that we could protect ourselves. And so we came in, you know, we spoke with the leaders and, you know, but the interesting thing about that space was I came in there as a professional crisis comms person on, you know, creating campaigns, right? But I couldn't help the fact that I was experiencing this space very differently because one, I was the only